This is Inside Badger Football with head coach Trey Shucker. Inside Badger Football is brought to you by the Arkadelphia Alliance and Chamber of Commerce, ATO Automotive, Batson Signs, Bell Wealth Services, Blakelytown, Chad Kesterson Shelter Insurance, Chicken Express, Citizens Bank, Domino's, Eccles, Thompson and Kneebone CPA, Doctors Gary and Rob Rucker, Knight Insurance Professionals, L&J Auto Sales, Ludwig's Bakery, Park Hill Baptist Church, Patterson Federal Credit Union, Print Mania, Providence Veterinary Care, Roger Wingfield State Farm, Scott Bird DDS, The Sexton Firm, South Central Connect, Southern Bancorp, Southwest Auto Collection, Taylor King Law, Tea Time Sims, Trinity Temple Assembly of God, Turner, Rogers, Manning and Plyler CPA, Twin Rivers Health and Rehabilitation, and Welch Funeral Home. The host of Inside Badger Football is Cooper Darr.
Welcome back to Inside Badger Football, Episode 2 of the 2025 season. Joined with me, as always, head coach Trey Shucker. How are you?
Doing great today. 3-0, feeling good.
Yes, sir. Well, it's always great to start 3-0 in your pre-conference time playing football. Talk about how important starting off 3-0 in a season is.
It's huge, especially for us. You know, we schedule upper classification teams, so we've got a really tough non-conference slate, and the team was able to handle that. Had to come from behind in a couple of those. This past game was no different, and showed a lot of mental toughness. It showed us a lot of things we've got to do better at and improve on. But being able to come out on top, 3-0, gives you a lot of momentum going into conference play.
Coach, let's talk about Lake Hamilton this past week. It was a 6A school. It's always great beating a classification of really two above you, not even one above you. But talk about kind of just the phases of the games, the offense clicking whenever they really needed to, defense being dominant as always. Let's talk about Lake Hamilton from last week. Yeah,
Lake Hamilton's a very good team, very physical, well-coached team. Coach Gillner does a great job and staff. So we knew that we had to play well to win. And, throughout the game when we weren't playing well, that's when we fell behind. When we started clicking and getting, executing better, that's when we were able to kind of cut the lead and then eventually by the end of the game take over the lead. And, it just shows you when we're doing things right, we're as good as anybody. But when we're doing things wrong and things are struggling, it's just when these teams take advantage, especially these upper classification teams, you can't make mistakes. They'll take advantage of it, and and they've shown that they would, and that's how it happened. Our special teams have been very good for us this year. We had some really good returns, failed to cover down on a punt, and so that eventually hurt us. Our defense has done really, really well, stepped up when they needed to. But early in the game, there were some kinks that we needed to get sorted out, and we eventually did. Same thing offense. Offense, it took a little bit to get going, but when we were executing, we were moving the ball, sustaining drives, putting points on the board, and ultimately, should have been even more points on the board. We scored 2 times that ended up getting called for a hold on both of those. Tough coaching points. Looking back at the film, I don't really know what else we're supposed to tell them, but they ended up getting called nonetheless, and so we didn't get any points on those drives, so it could have, we missed out on 14 points that we should have had on the board.
Well, always learning from everything in the game. It was a close game. Lake Hamilton was a great team running the wing T offense, something that, we don't get to see a lot, especially in our conference days. But tell us what you can learn from this film, from this game, really some perseverance as well throughout the game. Tell me how that can impact the rest of the season going forward.
Lake Hamilton is, in my opinion, I think they're the best at running the wing T. Just with the personnel that they have, how big and physical they are up front, the type of skill players that they typically have. All the run plays they hit really fast. And so they're really, really good at what they do. It fits them. And so being able to withstand that and be able to adjust in mid-game against a team that's going to run right at you like that, very proud of our guys. Just the being able to play from behind and then come back, it takes a lot of mental toughness. So being able to do that on the road, we've had to do that twice on the road. Being able to come from behind on the road in a big environment like that against a good team shows me that we've got a lot of mental toughness. And ultimately, we were able to outlast them. You know, I don't think we were cramping up as much as they were. So I think that also factored into the end of the game also. So I think we're starting to get in more better game shape. And obviously we're showing that we've got some mentally tough kids and a mentally tough team that's ready to play 4 quarters of football.
That's right. Mentally tough, perseverance, but also keeping composure at the same time was huge in this game. Big shout out to your strength and conditioning staff, your coordinators, your staff for getting them game ready. It really was an apparent difference between the two teams of who was cramping, who wasn't cramping, and
no doubt,
really that helped the outcome of the game. So, but let's go ahead and let's watch these highlights from Lake Hamilton this past week. Arkadelphia traveled to Lake Hamilton. Let's start off here in the first quarter. We're watching a defensive highlight right here. But let's just talk about the game. Starting off defensively, what was kind of y'all's game plan coming into this game?
Yeah, we knew that we had to stop the run. Yes, we knew that they were going to throw it. They were going to do some different play actions off of their run game. They did. We just knew that we had to get our eyes right and be able to match coverage, match the routes that they're running. Notice when the tight ends and the wings are releasing. And so early in the game, we just struggled to do that based off how fast they got down the field. But once we kind of figured out the speed of the game, we were able to start playing it better. Offense went out there and then was able to get a really good run by Blake Moody. Offensive line blocked it up great. Was able to get the calls up front, get it picked up, and control the line of scrimmage.
Coach, let's talk about your running backs. You just mentioned Moody.
Yep.
Obviously, Whitaker had a great game as well. I know we talked about how important having a couple weapons there in the backfield, but talk about those two guys
Yeah, no doubt. Our offensive line played phenomenal. I thought our offensive line did a great job in the run game. Caden Whitaker, junior running back, had a phenomenal game. He didn't end up scoring a point on the night, but he basically did everything else. And then Blake Moody was able to come in, senior running back, and really put the points on the board when we needed them. And then you just saw Lance Gully, senior defensive tackle, was able to sniff out the screen. Lake Hamilton tried to run a screen play, and Lance was standing right there, knew exactly what the play was able to kind of hang back and got underneath the pass for an interception.
And Lake Hamilton tried to run that a couple times that night, a couple screens. Talk about how important it is from a defensive lineman perspective, read screen, get back to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, no doubt. It is because we want to play aggressive on defense. We have an aggressive mentality. But if the offensive lineman lets you through pretty easy, you ought to know and transition your eyes, transition your momentum. And so we did a really good job of that.
Coach, defensively, talk about how important it is to get takeaways. We had several interceptions, even a fumble recovery. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, it's huge, and they were big in those moments of the game because we were doing the same thing back to them. We had some turnovers in the game that, some situations that we'd like to bring back and try over again, but you don't get to on a Friday night. And so, if we're doing that, it's good that our defense is able to create the same problems.
That's right. Okay, let's talk about this right here. If a viewer from home is not used to this wing T offense, you got a tight end here to the left.
Yep.
You have a wing. Obviously, Arkadelphia recovers this ball right here, but kind of put them in a perspective of the defense for Arkadelphia. What are you looking at right here in this scenario?
Yeah, the biggest thing is our defensive ends have to be disciplined. We want to our whole front needs to play discipline, right? So one of the biggest things in a wing T offense, especially when they're under center, is they want to run fullback trap, and if they can run trap for really, really good yards, they're going to keep doing it. And so our defense tackles, our middle linebackers got to be very disciplined on how they handle that, reading the guards and playing the technique. And then our ends, they'll run buck sweep. We're going to spill it. We're going to squeeze it hard, and we're going to wrong arm and try to take out the pullers, and then let our backers play clean and go make tackles. And so I thought that we were really disciplined on the front line with that.
I agree as well. Really being able to train not only your body but your mind and your eyes to really read your keys to make successful plays on a Friday night. Coach, your linebackers were reading everything perfectly as well, being able to drop back into coverage whenever they were reading pass. Lake Hamilton doesn't usually pass a lot, being a run-heavy team, but just talk about how your defensive coordinators really got your defensive just phase ready.
Yeah, no, Our defensive coaches do a phenomenal job. Our defense is, one of the best in the state, especially the way they're playing right now. Just hard-nosed, physical tacklers, and then playing discipline. Early in the week, whenever we're playing, the past couple games we've been more spread-based. When we play against all summer, we play against ourselves, fall camp. They're playing our offense more spread-based. And so it's you mentioned it, having to transition your mind into kind of changing the way you read the defense and your keys. It's difficult on a team like Lake Hamilton. And early in the week, it doesn't look great. When we're practicing Monday, Tuesday, there's a lot of mistakes happening on defense, and you just got to withstand that and trust that the kids are going to get it down and make it happen. And they were able to do that. Wednesday was a good practice. Thursday was a really good practice. And then you got to be able to make the adjustments when you're out there on the Friday also. And so, every team we play, Lake Hamilton included, is going to have a game plan in. They're going to have adjustments that they're ready to make for whatever we do and how we play it. We've got to be able to make the adjustments off of that as well. And I thought our kids did a really good job of that. Our coaches had a plan ready and, really, really great execution all the way around.
Coach, let's talk about defensive end Xavier Williams for a second. Obviously, we've seen a couple highlights of his relentless effort.
That's exactly it.
It's something that not a lot of people have, especially at the high school level.
That's right.
And the fact that he is playing the way that he is, talk about just how important that is from a leader standpoint.
And, that's something that we're wanting everybody on our team to take control of. You want to know what playing with a high motor looks like. You watch number 83 on the field. He's a guy that every single play is going full speed.
Coach, let's talk about this guy right here. Let's talk about really all your touchdowns from the night. You had Blake Moody there at the beginning. Talk about just your guys that really performed on the offensive side.
Yeah, I thought, we talked about Caden Whitaker being able to run and pass very effectively. Had a lot of yards in both overall. I think he was around 140 total yards on the night, run and pass. And then Blake Moody was able to come in and get some really good runs and put the ball in the box and get some points on the board. Blake Moody, very explosive running back, very strong. And then we had Orion Roberts. Orion had, I think, 9 catches for about 150-something yards. And a lot of it was off of just quicks, like what you're seeing right now. Just getting the ball to him quick and letting him use his athleticism and speed. For us, he's our fastest player on the field. And, he's just so explosive when the ball's in his hands, and that's just one of the ways we were able to get it to him Friday night.
There was a play with Orion earlier in the game. We saw the highlight, but he caught that ball and zoomed off like a rocket.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that y'all just train for in the offseason, just some speed training, catching that ball, watching it come into your hands and going?
Yeah, I know it is. It's something that's just one of our staples that we carry from week to week, something that we're able to do based off of defensive alignment. We want to be able to attack the perimeter of the defense. We want the defense to have to cover the entire field. Not as many vertical shots in the game Friday night, but based off of the alignment, we were just taking what they're giving us and trying to be as efficient, effective as possible, and that was one of the ways we were able to do it.
Coach, it's 22-28. Arkadelphia just scores right here. But talk about what is going on through your mind. It's going towards the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You're a little down. But talk about how important this was and for going for 2 earlier in the game.
Yeah,
really.
So we went for 2 earlier in the game. There was a penalty that put the PAT unit closer, and so we went with our goal line package unit, got the 2-point conversion, and then so we knew that would ultimately, if we did our job, that would ultimately factoring in later in the game. And so that last touchdown was able to match the scores, and the 2-point conversion was able to, earlier in the game, was able to put us up by 1.
Coach, this touchdown right here really, really sealing the deal,
Yeah.
You feel like, for this game. And then the defense coming out and playing dominant as always.
Yeah.
Just talk about how important that is to end the game really even at a higher level than whenever you started.
Yeah, no doubt. As the game got going, I thought we got stronger. We started building more momentum where we struggled earlier in the game to maintain and create momentum. But as the game got going, I thought that our kids started understanding, hey, we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to win this game. And I don't think they ever lost doubt. And so, like I said earlier, just a mentally tough group. Our defense started flying to the football even harder as the game got going. We could tell that they were kind of slowing down, and so, if you let our defense feel like you're slowing down, our defense is going to attack that like blood in the water. So, and I thought that's what ended up happening. They got, they started having some guys cramp, having to play with some backups, and our defense took advantage of it.
Coach, still watching this wing T offense from Lake Hamilton right here. We'll see it on the next clip. They're going to start getting ready. Defensive line, defense, what are they looking for right here?
Yeah, so right here, a short situation, we're looking for one of their runs. They're not going to put the ball in the air. They haven't had a whole lot of success, especially in a fourth down situation. They're just looking to get the first down, and one of that is going to be give it to one of their bigger backs in the backfield. And so, we called a timeout to try to get our guys coached up in that situation so that we could attack that rep with everything and kind of give our guys a breath, get some water, let them understand the situation. Like, if you get the stop right here, we win the game. Because after that, we were able to put the victory formation out and run the clock out, and we won the game. So that was a big play just to seal the deal. Yeah,
really the best play in football is that victory formation. You want to get in that at the end of the game and be able to know that, man, hey, I'm taking a knee and I'm walking away with a W
That's
tonight.
exactly right.
I love it, Coach. Let's talk about the players of the week from the Lake Hamilton game. We'll start off with the offensive player of the week, Derek Turner.
Yeah, Derek Turner, senior left tackle for us. In a game where a lot of the production was on the ground, he was one of the main ones, big part of that. He's one of those guys, he's been a part of a lot of football games, played a lot of snaps for us, was a starter last year for us. And so he's, got a lot of experience on the offense line and doing a really good job making sure everything's right up front. And I thought he had one of the best games in the game against Lake Hamilton. And a lot of our success was part of that.
Well, if you have an offensive lineman as a player of the week, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and let's go to the defensive player of the week, Lance Gully. Let's talk about him.
No doubt. Lance Gully, like I said, playing against the wing T, you got to stop the trap, and he had a big task ahead on that, and he did. He did a great job of it, stopped the trap. He also recognized the screen, had an interception, and then he was also the big tackle on the fourth down to seal the game at the very end on the fourth and short. And so he was the one that slanted and made a really big play on the fullback.
That is awesome. It's always the best feeling whenever I played defensive tackle, a while ago.
Yeah.
Being able to really slant and you just know that you just meet that right there.
Yeah, he met it head on. And
that is a great
had
feeling.
the big stop. It was awesome.
That's awesome. All right, special teams player of the week, Cam Archer.
Cam Archer, second week in a row, had really good returns. And he's just such a threat in the return game for us. It's so nice to have returners like we have, like Cam, able to create field position, momentum, and then have the ability to be able to score. We didn't score this week, but Cam had a really nice return in the game. Really nice returns.
All right, Badger Spirit Award winner.
Badger Spirit Award winner is Hunter Yarber this week. Junior linebacker, defensive end. He's a guy that gave us phenomenal looks this week in our scout looks. Playing a team like Lake Hamilton, it changes up how we prepare and what we do. And he gave us a really good look this week from the defensive standpoint. He played one of the running back, those wing back spots for Lake Hamilton against our starting group. Gave us a phenomenal look, and then he was able to flip around when our starting offense was out, and also gave a great look on acting like he was Lake Hamilton's defense. So just phenomenal effort all the way around, putting the team first and making sure that our team is ready to play for a Friday night. And that's what, ultimately what a Spirit Award is about.
I love it. All right, let's look at the results from the 4A7 conference from this week. Obviously, Arkadelphia 36, Lake Hamilton 28. We were there. That was a good game. That was a fun one to be a part of. Bauxite 40, Magnolia 22. We got the rest of the scores there, jumping down to Stuttgart and Malvern 49-14. Dardanelle 28, Nashville 26. That was a close game right there. So
a couple of really good games in there. Bauxite being able to beat Magnolia. Magnolia is a team that was, a couple weeks previous had beaten Nashville. And so that's a really big win for Bauxite. And then Nashville was on the road at Dardanelle. Dardanelle is one of the top teams in 4A, and being able to be that close to them and make it a really, really intense game, a game that went down to the wire. That's very impressive. So it just shows you the type of conference that we still have. Yeah. It's very competitive.
Yeah. The 4A, the 4A7 conference is very, very tough, but also the 4A classification. It's one of the biggest in Arkansas classifications, and it is a tough conference to play in.
It is. Our conference is historically known for being one of the tougher 4A conferences, and then just with the amount of teams that's in 4A, there's some other conferences that are very good. But it's tough, especially when it's playoff time. You don't know who you're going to see. Yeah. There's always teams that show up and have great seasons, and maybe they have a big senior group that comes through, and they're productive off of that. You just never know. There's so many teams that you got to be willing to play anything and everything, and play anywhere. So,
all right, 4A7 standings coming into conference here next week is starting conference. Arkadelphia is not playing. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But Arkadelphia sitting there at number 1 at 3-0 before the pre-conference games. Bauxite there at number 2, tied with Fountain Lake. And then you got Genoa Central, Haskell, Harmony Grove. Malvern, Nashville, they had some tougher opponents that they were playing. Yep. So kind of hints at their 1-2 schedule. And then Ashdown sitting there at 0-2. Haven't played a third game just yet. But let's look at the schedule for this week. Obviously, a lot of open games, kind of getting ready for conference starting. Arkadelphia is open this week. We'll talk about that. We have an Oklahoma team coming to Ashdown. Bauxite, Fountain Lake, Malvern, and Nashville will be open. Genoa Central will be at Murfreesboro, and Jessieville will be at Haskell Harmony Grove. So there are some good games to watch this week. Really maybe even some scouting going on, just watching some other games. Yeah. But, Coach, it is an off week. The Badgers are not playing this week. What are y'all doing this week to really prepare for future opponents, getting ready for Nashville next week? How are y'all letting your bodies recuperate during this time?
Early in the week is going to be all about recovering and focusing on us, trying to clean up a lot of things that we saw. This week is a really big week for self-scout. Right, just kind of going over the things that we didn't do very well over the past 3 weeks, making sure that those are points of emphasis early in the week, trying to clean things up and get our bodies back at the same time. So, Monday is going to be a lot of film of Friday night game, a recovery lift, and then we actually have a JV game. And so we're excited about letting the JV guys go out and compete. Some of the guys that might not have gotten as many reps in a Friday night. And, I think that's part of the development in a program, is allowing the JVs to go play and show their skills too, and improve and get some game reps. Tuesday, Wednesday is going to be put the pads on and try to get better at all the things that we've done the self-scout on. Big points of emphasis. Thursday, Friday is going to be start gearing towards getting our bodies back from the previous 2 practices and start gearing up towards the conference play.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, Coach, you're playing Nashville at home to start conference next week, September 26th. Anything you want to tell us? We won't have a show next week, but is there anything you want to tell us to prepare for the Nashville game?
Yeah, they are 1-2 right now, but they've played really good opponents. Yeah. And so anytime Nashville and Arkadelphia play each other, it's a big game. That's one of those things, it's rivalry. And the way it's kind of shaken out, it matters a lot towards this game matters a lot towards winning a conference championship, which ultimately leads into your playoff seeding later in the season. And so we get them first, and so we feel like everything we've done up to this point has prepared us for that. But at the end of the day, after the non-conference is over, everybody's back to 0-0. You were showing the scores earlier, the non-conference scores and the non-conference record. All that can go out the window now, because now it's time to get into conference play, and anything can happen. And so we're happy to get to play Nashville at home. I think that matters. Being at home, Badger Stadium is a tough place to play, and so we're excited that we get to play play them at home. They're going to be a very good team. Coach Cheshire, he's new coach over there. He's going to have them ready to play us, and they're going to be fired up. And we know that we've got to do a good job to win the game.
That's right. And just like you said, everyone really is starting back at 0-0. Yeah. 0 wins, 0 losses, because now it is time for what matters. It's conference time, and that will determine playoffs later, but 1 week at a time, right?
That's exactly right. 1 week at a time, and whatever you did in the past, it matters a little bit. You know, you're able to build some confidence through what we've been able to do. Being 3-0, that's a confidence builder, right? Being able to go 4 quarters and play from behind on the road and still come out with a win, those are all confidence builders. But we've got to be able to transition that into confidence moving into conference play. And you know, we've still got to play better in a lot of ways, and we know that, and that's why we practice every day. And we're excited about getting into conference play. We're excited about where we're at right now. A lot of work to have had in the future, but we still got to go play the game. You know, Nashville's going to have a good game plan for us. We've got to put together a good game plan for them. We've got to go execute it. You know, we're not going to be able to win games just because we've won them in the past.
Right.
You know that if we have that kind of mentality, we're not going to win the game. It just doesn't work that way. And so that's one of the things that you know, I think our coaching staff does a really good job of is making sure every opponent is respected. Every opponent is treated the same in preparation, making sure our kids' mindsets are right and ready to attack the game, because anything can happen, and we've got to have guys ready to play.
That's right. Well, Coach, just like we said earlier, no game this Friday, but join us next week at home versus Nashville. It's going to be awesome. September 26th. It should be a good game. It's going to be a rivalry game. So join us there if you can't make it. Watch at ArkadelphiaBadgerTV.com. And I think that's all we have for today.
All right.
Go Badgers.
Go Badgers.
Inside Badger Football is brought to you by the Arkadelphia Alliance and Chamber of Commerce, ATO Automotive, Batson Signs, Bell Wealth Services, Blakelytown, Chad Kesterson Shelter Insurance, Chicken Express, Citizens Bank, Domino's, Eccles, Thompson and Kneebone CPA, Doctors Gary and Rob Rucker, Knight Insurance Professionals, L&J Auto Sales, Ludwig's Bakery, Park Hill Baptist Church, Patterson Federal Credit Union, Print Mania, Providence Veterinary Care, Roger Wingfield State Farm, Scott Bird DDS, The Sexton Firm, South Central Connect, Southern Bancorp, Southwest Auto Collection, Taylor King Law, Tea Time Sims, Trinity Temple Assembly of God, Turner, Rogers, Manning and Plyler CPA, Twin Rivers Health and Rehabilitation, and Welch Funeral Home. Inside Badger Football is a production of the Washita Sports Digital Network, the student sports media program housed in the Rogers Department of Communications at Washita Baptist University. Inside